Yes, welcome YouTube people, and as you well know, what you can see in the background, this is my Monster 185, having some overheating issues and it's not maxing out RPM anymore, so I'm just going to figure out how to do a vacuum test. Obviously as the piston goes up it draws in fuel from the carburetor, so it creates a vacuum to draw the fuel in. If it's creating a vacuum drawing the fuel in, if there's an air leak, then surely it's sucking in air to destroy my metering mixture. So if I was to try and perform a pressure test, that might blow out any seals and create a false positive, because it might seal itself. But by doing a vacuum test, it may well suck through a seal that's failing. Only issues is I'm self-maintenance, so all the gaskets I've made myself, and piston I remodified from a motorbike piston. All of the gaskets I've made myself, so I'm suspecting something might be leaking there, and if not, I've got new crankcase seals to put on. And so first things first, I've disconnected the carburetor because on a vacuum test I don't want to suck through any of the little petals on the membrane. So as far as the carburetor seating, then obviously I've got to make sure that everything else is done before I can blame the carburetor. But the exhaust should be pretty straightforward. I'll show you the little bit of kit that I've bought. It costs 11 quid and it's just a vacuum kit for bleeding car brakes. I'm hoping that the vacuum in this system will last, because there's no point in doing it if this system's going to leak back. I could put a one-way valve in to eliminate this, but I've not got one at the moment, so it's just going to be trial and error. These are the plates that I've made. I don't know if you can see them. That's for the exhaust, so it's a bit of aluminium plate, probably 4 and 5 mil, and I used an old push bike inner tube to create a rubber seal, same as for the carburetor. So when I put these back on in their original slot and then put the plate on, that's the carburetor side sealed. I'll do the same for the exhaust side, and I'm going to attach my vacuum for the pulse pickup. Hopefully, let's see how it goes. Yeah, so quick update. The blanking plate is in the carb. I didn't bother with this because once it's off, you can see there's memory on the indentations from where it's fit the carb, so I'd be foolish to expect it not to leak now. Obviously I'm going to use new gaskets on these, so fingers crossed there's something else that will have to be eliminated by technical skill rather than any testing kind of method, purely because I can't do the test with these fitted, yet they're crucial to the test because they're still before the carburetor, so they could still have a leak there and suck air in before the carb. However, if you think about resistance, it's going to suck air in through the carb without any restrictions. It's not going to really bother with the tiniest of air leak on any of these. It will just not see it, so I'm pretty confident they're going to be fine. So there's the blanking plate fitted, torque down with the torque there to 6 newtons like it says in the book. Now I'm just going to undo this bolt, undo the 2 bolts. I'm not taking the springs off, I'm not taking anything to bits. I'm just going to lower it because I'm only fitting a plate. So I'll see you in round 2. So I've took the exhaust off, and now the exhaust is off. I just thought I'd show you the modification I've done on the twin tank system. As you can see, there's 2 tanks. They look like go-kart tanks. This is for the Bulldog Monster Mark 1, and you can see the 1 litre, 2 litre, 3 litre, 4, 5 litres one side, 5 litres the other side, 10 litres in total, plus the 4 litres reserve. I didn't like it because it fed off one through siphon into the other, and then once this was empty it then feed off this. Problem being that the siphon process created a vacuum. I thought that was too much pressure for the B37C carburetor to handle the tiny membrane, and also as soon as I was out of fuel on one side I was then suffering an imbalance. And if you've ever got your tubes back to front, then you'll find that you just add in to the torque shift even more by it being out of balance. So with my mirror in flight, seeing how much fuel I've got, I could see one side that I've got loads, then I'd have to try and cross over to see if I've got any in the spare, and it was just making life difficult. So basically I've converted it to 2-into-1 for all those that want to know. You're looking at the two. Each tank now is separate, so there's an air breather and then there's an air breather. It looks like it's connected by a tube, but it's not. You can see I've cut the tube up. This is purely just to keep these in a nice position, keep anything falling down from the holes, yet they'll still be able to breathe. And I've got one side's on the clip, because if I've got to take them both off, I'll take them both to the petrol station anyway. I'll not just take one out, because then there's no carry-on door. So this is a one-way valve. That's just to help repriming when I'm taking it back out of storage. And inside I've got a porous ceramic filter, so the air filter's coming in, the air filter's going out, and now if you can see I've got 2 litres in, so I've got 1 litre this side, but it's level. I've got 1 litre this side, so 1 and 1 equals 2 litres. And you can see at the bottom, this is the link. So both tanks now are linked directly across. Hopefully that will be the end of my guessing whether the fuel tank system is at fault. Right, back from a short break. You can see things are getting messier, so that's a sign of progress. Update: the carbs blanked off okay, and the exhaust is now blanked off okay. I can see that the rubber's squashed, so fingers crossed it's creating some sort of seals. Don't forget, I only need to see if it's leaking instantly. It is going to leak over 5 minutes, guaranteed, but I need to know if it's drawing in air very rapidly rather than just a slight leak. So let's fit it. So as you can see, I've kented it up. I couldn't get this clip to fit, and I'm looking at the dial now. It's vacuumed at 24 atmospheres, so that's got a, yeah, that'd be a good BJ, so it's got to be good. I can see the needle slowly giving in. I just want to see now if it sets and rests at anything, and then I can make an assumption. But it's definitely not a massive leak. It's not and then disappearing, so you know it's holding pretty well from what I can get a vacuum test to do. The crankcase seals, I mean, if they were leaking they would just suck air in straight away. And I'll give you an example, although I'll have to reprime it. There's a button on the end of there that lets air in, so if I just slightly touch that, can you see, did you hear it? So that's a leak. So let me pump it up again and I'll come back to it after 5 minutes. So I'm going to try and get this up to as high as I can. There, it's set on 25, so let's start the timer, and basically we want to see how quick we lose it all. I know it's leaking, but I don't think it's leaking significantly enough. It could well be leaking from there, it could well be leaking from my 2 plates that I've put on. But the biggest thing is, if there was a hole anywhere, it would leak rapidly. I'm almost certain of it, not just slowly fizzle out. So we'll come back after 5 minutes to see where we're at. It's only 5 minutes up and I've lost a bit of pressure, but as you can see I'm still at 20 atmospheres or so that's fine. I know it's going to make a, let me just turn this alarm off. Yeah, so there's no guarantee that this is going to hold its vacuum the way I want it. It's just for bleeding brakes, but it has served a bit of a purpose. It's told me that there's no definite leaks in the system, that this could be leaking air back in. I could put a one-way valve in there and go again, but it's finding a one-way valve. Maybe it's just confirmed that my head gasket, my base gasket, my crankcase, they're all sealed. If they weren't, this would have gone down. I know I'm trying to convince you. I'll probably sound like I'm trying to convince myself as well. I don't like the look of this. It's original by that crimp, so it could well have some problems. You watch it when I turn the prop. So that's my compression, look. So it's spotting the change there. I know my rings are sealing properly, although I'm going to change the piston out anyway, just for the sheer hell of it. So I don't believe I've got a crankcase leak. I know there's a bit of oil there, but that's where I had to free up the winder, and with WD-40 I'll clean that off and keep my eye on that. But this is what led me to believe, to think maybe I'd got a seal gone on this side of the crank, because I was looking at oil down here. But I do remember spraying that when my cable got stuck once, so I'm putting that down to that, but I'll certainly keep an eye on it. So back to the drawing board. I think it's going to be carburetor adjustments yet again. I'm just going to run this actually, see how long it does take before it gets back to 0.